All right, so today we're going to be looking at our first geometry skill here. We're going to look at our coordinate plane, and we're going to begin looking at something called transformations. Okay, so we're going to do several types of transformations. Today, we're going to start with the first one, and we're going to call it a translation. And the word I want you to associate translation with is the word slide. Okay? So when we slide something over, let's say you had your salt shaker here and you slid it over here, the only thing that changes is the location. Okay? The size and the shape stay the same. The only thing that changes is its location. I'm going to write this down, and you should too. So you're only going to change the location. Okay, push pause if you need to. Whoops. Write down this information that I have written down if you want to copy this little coordinate plane, and then I will show you one more thing, but go ahead and push pause, get it copied down. When you're ready, we'll start. Okay, so hopefully you have it all copied down. So I'm going to say we're going to go from blue to red. So I'm going to call this point, I'm going to call it A. This is my original point. And all I did to get from this point here to this point here is slide up, right? So I slid up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units. So I moved to go from A to A prime 8 units up, okay? So when we write our new ordered pair and our new point, we're going to label it the same as this, but we're going to call it prime. So we're going to give it a little mark here. It's not a 1, it's just a little hash mark. And we're going to call this A prime. Okay, if you need more time, copy it down, push pause. If not, we're going to go on to the next slide now. Okay, so here we have a point P. And the rule, excuse me, the rule tells me it's a translation going 7 units right and 4 units up. Okay, so if you remember from our talk about ordered planes or coordinate pairs, we have an X and a Y, right? X is going to tell us to move left or right. Y is going to tell us to move up or down. Okay? So if I took this ordered pair and I tried to figure out what it was, it's in what quadrant is this here? This is quadrant 1. This is quadrant 2. This is quadrant 3, and this here is quadrant 4. So what quadrant is my P in? It is in quadrant 3. So point P is in quadrant 3, and we're going to do a translation. We're going to go 7 units right, so that would be my X, and 4 units up. That would be my Y. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to start here, and I'm going to count 7 units to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm not going to put a point there. I'm just going to hover, and then I'm going to look at what my next step is. It says, and 4 units up. So I'm going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that will be my resting place for my new point P, P prime. Now, if you notice, when I was counting, I don't count the spot where I start. my 1 is the next unit over. A lot of you guys make that mistake when you're counting. You start 1 and then 2, but you should not be counting that. That is not where you start. Your starting point is your next unit over. So that's 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. Okay, make sure you push pause if you need to copy this down. I want you to go ahead and copy down this coordinate plane and what I just said about the x and y, x being left or right and y being up and down. When you're ready, push play and we'll continue with the next slide. Okay, so this time it's not just a point. Now I have a shape. What kind of shape is this? That's right, it's a triangle. Don't worry if people look at you weird because you're talking to your computer, laptop, phone, or tablet. It's okay. Your teacher asked you to. So we're going to do exactly what this tells us to do. This is the rule, and the rule tells me it's a translation 1 unit up. So I'm only making 1 move per point or ordered pair. So I'm going to look at H, and it says 1 unit up. That tells me I go up 1. And this is now going to be H prime. I'm going to look at L. I'm going to go up 1, put my new point, and my new point is now L prime. Let's go ahead and look at the last point here. I have V. I'm going to go up 1, and oh, that happens. Up 1, and this point here becomes V prime. I'm going to take my line. Let's see if I can get that super quick. And I'm going to connect my 3 prime points. So I go from point to point, point to point, point to point. And now my black triangle is my original, and my red triangle is my prime after a translation of 1 unit up. Sounds pretty simple? It is. We'll do another. Go ahead and push pause. Make sure you copy this one and write this one down because I want you to do the next one with me. When you're ready to do it with me, push play and we will start. Okay. So this time my translation tells me 7 units right and 7 units up. So I'm going to start with K and I'm going to count 7 units to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 7 units up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now you notice that I did not mark my first movement of 7 right because that's not where my point's going to be. My point is after both translations. So I'm going to call this K prime. I'm going to go to C and I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units right and then another 7 units up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that would be C prime. My last point here is Q. I'm going to do the same thing. Count 7 units right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then my last 7 units up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Point there. And we're going to call that one Q prime. And then you take your straight edge. So you are going to need a straight edge tomorrow. Make sure you bring either your student ID, a ruler, index card, or an expired gift card. Any of those will work as a straight edge. So we went from CQKQ to CKQ prime by doing a translation of 7 units right and 7 units up. Make sure you have this copied down before you go on. So if you need to push pause, do so. And we'll continue with the next examples in 3, 2, 1. All right, here we go. Now this time it's not a triangle. I have 4 points. So it doesn't matter what the shape is. It can be any polygon. As long as you're doing the translation rule that it tells you for every point, you should have an identical figure in a different location. Remember, for translation, size and shape don't change, just location. All right, so here we go. The rule is 5 units left and 1 unit down. Okay, so I'm going to start at R and I'm going to go left 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1 unit down. Oh, let me get my pen. And we're going to call that R prime. I think this is Z or L. I don't know. But we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1 unit down. And that's going to put my Z prime right at R. And that's okay. It's perfectly okay to have a prime number, a prime point on top of an older existing point. So let's look at F. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left. 1 unit down. That's going to give me F prime. H is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1 unit down. And some of you guys are probably thinking, I can hear your brains click, 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 click. Well, F and H is just one unit apart. Can I just eyeball it? Well, you can. But what happens when you're eyeballing it and you actually eyeball it incorrectly? Then you actually make a mistake that had you counted out your points, you wouldn't have made. So I always like to say, err on the side of caution. Just do the work and you'll have a greater opportunity of getting the answer right. Ready? One more? Actually, no. Go ahead and do 28. Copy this one down. And by the way, these problems that we're doing will be on your assignment that you'll be working on in class. So hopefully you have some really good notes and you'll be able to just transfer this information over. Solve 28. And when you come into class tomorrow, we'll look at it together. I'm going to do 2 more examples, and this is what we're building to in 3, 2, 1. So make sure you have everything copied down. All right, so now my rule is in the form of XY. Now remember earlier, I told you that X tells you left or right, and Y tells you up and down. Okay, so this is when that's super duper important. Okay, and you can't see it, so let me just make it a little bit darker. Here's the point A prime, or A. Let's make it a little bit bigger. And on this one we have point T, and T, that one you can see. Okay, so X tells me up and down, so it says X plus 1, that means I'm going to move left or right. If it's positive, I'm moving right 1. And then my Y tells me up and down. Since it's negative, I'm going to go down. So I'm going to translate it, and I'm going to put it in words here. Okay? So I'm going to go right 1 and down 7. And I want you guys to get in the habit of doing this. I'm also going to expect you to do the opposite on the other one. But for now, let's just, when we have it in XY notation, I want you to write it in word form as well. Okay? So I'm going to go from A, I'm going to go right 1, oops, and down how many? 7. I didn't finish that. Right 1, down 7. So this gives me my A prime. Okay, so let's look at the next one here. This is our last example, and then you guys will be on your own tomorrow. Well, not necessarily on your own. So again, in XY notation, so this is X minus 2. Remember, X tells us to go left or right. Since it's a minus 2, it's going to go to the left because it's negative. So we're going to go left 2 and Y plus 4. Remember, that tells me up and down. It's positive 4. So I'm going to go up 4. So here's my original T. I'm going to go left 2 and up 4. And here we have my t prime. Easy peasy, right? It should be. Make sure you have both of these done. 28 we'll do in class tomorrow, and I will see you tomorrow.